In that same New York Times podcast, they talk about the nature of the women who ultimately wound up within his reach. Here's SOT 4.
As soon as he got out of jail in 2009, and possibly before, he was basically building or expanding a virtual harem, a pipeline of young women in their late teens and early 20s, who were mostly from Eastern Europe and Russia. Mm-hmm. He had scouts roving around these places to find him women, and every time he found a woman, he would ask them to find him more women. And so you might ask, okay, so why do these women comply? And the answer is that he had money and influence, and they usually had none. He bought them plane tickets. He provided them apartments. He offered to pay for college or dental school. He sent them to doctors or plastic surgeons. And most of all, he dangled a sense of opportunity and security. He had a place for them to stay. He had people for them to meet. He would make introductions to modeling agencies or producers or rich men. And we can see in these emails these varying levels of comfort on the part of the women. Some of them seem to take the arrangement at face value. They're trading sex for money or security or opportunity.
I mean, there's not necessarily anything illegal about that, just for the record. Like, it goes back to the discussion at the top of the first hour. Gold digger or sex trafficking? Like, you do have to figure out whether there was force involved. Force, coercion, or fraud basically takes it from voluntary gold digging. You know, I will sleep with you and be your Russian lover as long as you put me up in a hotel and introduce me to a bunch of modeling agencies and rich men. That's fine. I'm sorry, it's a tale as old as time, frankly. But if she stops wanting to do that and you start threatening her, like, I've got videotape of you, or I'm going to tell everybody what you did, or you better continue in this thing, or else it can change into something that was legal and no longer is. And certainly if from the get-go the woman felt like she had no choice, you can have problems. So I just want to be clear on the law. It's not a slam dunk just because there was sort of a financial understanding at hand. That's been happening since the dawn of time. I've said that before. Emily, can we talk about some of the things you tweeted out last night? Because there is a lot of discussion of the P word. I think the audience knows what the P word is, but it's another word for cat and or kitty. And it's all over the Epstein emails.
Yeah. So, for example, just to the point you were just making, Megan, I found this 2015 email from some woman who at one point says, "I appreciate things good happened. Thank you." English clearly not her first language. "Unfortunately, my impression is that becoming a mistress was the only one job proposition you were really serious about. I refused, so it meant all is over." She goes on to talk about how meeting Bill Gates or Woody Allen was great, but nobody will hire me just because I have nice pictures with them. There's also, and these are some of the most disturbing emails that I found, ample evidence of Epstein arranging for people to get what he says are P-word tests or go to the P-word doctor, and just like really disgusting terms. So yeah, like he tells people to go get a P-word swab. He is with his assistant arranging gyno appointments for women to get antibiotics. There's one woman who tells him, "Be careful who you sleep with. Those girls are infected," because she seemingly has an infection. And so that gets to some of these legal questions about whether this was understood by the women to be prostitution, meaning money was exchanged for sex, or if it was a relationship, a transactional relationship, but a relationship that didn't involve transactions of like legal prostitution. And Megan, you would know way more about that than I would. But like you said, this stuff is, I mean, the library is riddled with examples of this stuff.
I mean, I'll give you one example. We did a couple of in-depth shows on sex trafficking when I was at NBC. And the one woman's story that always stayed with me was she thought she was going out on a date with, she was of age. She thought she was going out on a date with her boyfriend. She had a daughter of her own, and that daughter was back at his apartment. And the two of them went out, and instead of driving her to dinner, he drove her to a hotel and said, "Go inside and have sex with the guy in there and get the money." And she was shocked and was like, what do you mean? Absolutely not. I thought we were going on a date. And he hit her and said, "Go inside or else." And she did it. And she explained that she was afraid of him, but she was really afraid for her daughter, who was not in her possession. She thought she'd been going out on a date that night, and she had the daughter was with somebody that he controlled. And that's how it started. And then they've got you. Like once you do it once, then they're like, I'll tell everybody you're a prostitute and you had sex for money, which you did, you know? And then they start advertising you on, it used to be Backpage. Now it's other things because we shut that down. But in any event, that's sex trafficking. She did not voluntarily go in there and have sex with a John because she wanted to be a hooker. She did it because of force, fraud, and coercion. Now, this is something else, you know, like I say, like gold digging women, Anna Nicole Smith. Do we really think she had the hots for that 95-year-old man? Of course she didn't. She wanted his money. She wanted to be taken care of. Is it prostitution? Not exactly. It's more like gold digging. It's definitely not sex trafficking. There was no force, fraud, or coercion. And so you got to ask yourself in all these, you know, situations, and it's individual. Well, you have to go individual. They would have had to, had there been a legal trial. How about this one? How about this one? How about this one?
There's pretty likely, though, some fraud, like in the force, fraud, and conviction there. The chance that the recruiters that Epstein is using in Eastern Europe are going to these young women or late teens and being direct and honest about what they're signing up for is pretty low. I think we can probably all agree with that.
Well, and the visa applications
that's where the modeling,
too. Right.
You're right. The visa and the modeling are where the fraud lies. They're getting a visa to do modeling. The modeling company now controls that visa. They're not actually doing modeling. Like, let's not, like, maybe they get introduced to a couple of agents or something.
No, you can hear it in that one woman's email that Emily just read. Like, I'm not going to get modeling jobs based on my pictures, my candids with Woody Allen at your home.
Right. Yes. Right. It's wonderful to meet Bill Gates on the island, but yeah, nobody's going to hire me over that.
Apparently, it wasn't really that wonderful to meet Bill Gates.
No, of course it wasn't. I think she was being. I think she was being a little bit generous and facetious at the same time.
Well, speaking of infections, I mean, that's one of the big takeaways or pieces of evidence, again, from this library that we now have access to, which is Epstein drafted an email to himself where this brings blackmail into it potentially too. He seems to be threatening to blow the whistle on Bill Gates and is saying he helped Bill Gates procure antibiotics because he slept with a prostitute, a Russian prostitute, and needed to slip something to his then wife, Melinda, in order to be surreptitious about it. And so that looks like Epstein was planning potentially, again, this was in his drafts, but he was planning potentially to blow the whistle for leverage over Bill Gates.
Well, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you've written on this too, the Bill Gates potential blackmail thing. So this email that Jeffrey Epstein sent to himself, or was in his drafts, I don't know which, must have been sent to himself. And it's in like the voice of a Bill Gates worker, employee, who seems to be saying, it would be terrible if this stuff I did for you got revealed, sir. It's going to be really bad if the world finds out I got you STD antibiotics to slip into Melinda's food because you cheated on her with a hooker or with a sex trafficking person who had diseases in the hoochie. And your point, I think, has been like that's potential blackmail. And didn't then Epstein and Gates invest in that guy's company? The employee in whose voice Epstein was allegedly writing this email?
Yeah, I mean, look, I will stress it's another case. Gates has denied all of this. And so I think it's just important to say we don't have evidence that anything in that email is true. It does appear that Epstein wrote that to be in the voice of one of Gates's main advisors, somebody named Boris. Boris and Epstein had been exchanging emails because Boris was mad that Gates wasn't going to spring for this really expensive apartment penthouse for him in New York. And he was getting Epstein's advice on how to basically get what he wanted at just a purely materialistic level from Gates. So pretty tawdry stuff. But I think it was the first clearest piece of evidence that, blackmail was, that there was some, there's some evidence that there was some thinking around blackmail. We also know now that there were hidden cameras. He talked, and there's discussion in the email about him implanting hidden cameras I was impressed by how aggressive Epstein was in trying to get with Gates. He also was advising Gates on how to, raise money and have a donor advised fund, and sort of trying to sort of coach Gates. But that's another tough one. I mean, I have a lot of criticism of Bill Gates for some of his projects, but I do think he's been, at this point, he's been Me Too'd in a way that I thought we sort of learned that we weren't going to do that anymore. I will say too, just on the issue of the grooming, and it is grooming in the sense that Epstein is grooming these young women. They then have sex with him, and it appears that then he turns them over to other men, which is how pimps groom, young women for prostitution. There's also evidence in those files that there was a lot of drugs being used, and there were large quantities. At one point, there was a list of drugs that was being circulated. Again, we can't verify whether that was really evidence of widespread drug use, but it seems to me that there was plenty of evidence over many years to go after these guys and to prosecute these crimes and investigate them more, and it didn't happen. I mean, obviously there was the initial conviction, and then of course they were beginning the second conviction, or the second investigation, but it just seems like people looked the other way, knowing full well what was going on, and I think we need to understand why that would be.
Why did they do that?
Did they investigate
Why did they
whether
do that?
Bill Gates...
That's one of the big questions we all
Did
have.
they investigate whether Bill Gates drugged his wife as soon as they saw that email? It seems potentially to be evidence.
Well, that's why the Bill Gates thing to me is, it's at a higher level than just unsupported Me Too accusations, because Melinda Gates has weighed in. Mm-hmm. Melinda Gates gave an interview, Bill's now ex-wife. This happened, it was on NPR, just after the latest round, including that allegation hit. She was on cam and was asked about the latest revelations, and here she is inside 18.
The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection, and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. And so it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life. And I hope there's some justice for those now women, right? We see them standing up in front of microphones in D.C.
First of all, it's a very annoying verbal tick when people continue to say right after every point they make.
Megyn,
if you are somebody out there who does that, work on it. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a terrible exchange there. I mean, she sort of says, the reporter says, that Gates has denied this, but she's still sort of describing the email as though it's somehow verified. It's not. And then she says, just tell us your emotion. I think the right question was, did that happen? Did you have any evidence?
Yeah. Do you believe this happened to you?
Because it's
did
kind
you
of
confront him?
That's not, I just think that's actually taking you down that Me Too road, which is like, hey, we don't really care about the facts of the case. Right. Just tell us how you feel emotionally.
It's the P word. It's the P word way around asking the direct, hard question, which is, do you believe this happened to you? Did you call up Bill Gates and ask him whether he did this?
Well, and here's another question. Boris Nikolic, who is the man whose voice the email was written in, this is like Bill Gates' second in command. He's exchanging all kinds of emails with Epstein, tongue in cheek about women and the like. But he is also one of the people who Epstein was using to procure NSA sources to help him code break the human genome and to be involved in those types of projects. So did the government investigate whether the NSA was improperly involved in that type of scientific pursuit, or was it state sanctioned? I mean, these are given how much of the Gates Foundation and the Gates personal office was state sanctioned. That's a huge, huge question. We have no evidence that that's being investigated or was investigated, and the government's not saying, no, this was state sanctioned. This is something that we do on the side, anything like that. But it's a huge open question.
And
just to correct, I'm not sure if there was an investment into this guy's company, but this is what I meant to reference per the Wall Street Journal. Epstein had threatened to expose Bill Gates' alleged affair with Russian bridge player Mila Antonova in 2017, purportedly because Bill Gates would not join a charitable fund. The financier began with JP Morgan Chase. In any event, there does appear to be threatening behavior going on by Epstein toward Gates and possibly others. International disputes, inflation, rising national debt, digital currency. There is a never-ending list of reasons gold has risen over 700% in the last 20 years. And a never-ending list of reasons smart Americans diversify a portion of their savings into precious metals with Birch Gold Group. Gold can thrive during uncertainty, which is why it is a crucial part of a balanced strategy. It gives you peace of mind given all the events that could impact the U.S. economy. See if holding gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account is right for you. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Just text MK to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, consider letting Birch Gold help you diversify with gold, so you too can have peace of mind regardless of the uncertainty. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.